Like everything, we've watched too much on YouTube. We've watched too much HGTV in my world, and everybody thinks it can be over and instantaneous. Even
Right.
for us, well, I'm not going to put you with me. Even for this old guy, it's not as quick as we'd all like it to be. We all think it's going to take exactly half the time, but it's really going to take double the time we're even thinking. And sometimes double is actually 4x. So that's another great lesson I think a lot of people don't realize is just how long it takes to get a startup going. When I first started my biz, I told everybody, I'm like, I'm going to break even in 16 months. Yeah. 36 months later, I finally broke even.
Yeah.
How am I doing? Yeah.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Hey, everybody, we're getting ready to rock and roll, and we've got some great info for you today. We're going to be talking doubling, but I'm going to be talking doubling with half the staff. What happened? I let Alan take off, and he's trying to be old Big Daddy on me, going to L.A., going to party down with Cousin Brad, probably going to go out there, hit the links, hit the thing, probably going to hit Rodeo Drive. I don't know what he's going to do, but Alan is off today, and I'll let him go every once in a while, but I can't go off without going off on him. I can't believe he's taken this opportunity to soak up the spoils of being an entrepreneur who does his own thing. And, we don't talk enough about Alan, but Alan is a commercial real estate agent now, but he has been through a couple small businesses. He's been through the corporate world, and he's finally getting to enjoy some of the spoils of making this commercial real estate business a real go here. A lot of people are coming to him because they realize he's a straight shooter. We've had Chad, his business partner, on with us. And so you guys know him. He's good. But today, we're going to be talking about scaling your business with Karl Maier, founder of Abundant, is an experienced CFO and business advisor. So this stuff's going to be really heady, everybody. You better be able to hang on and figure out what he's saying, because I think for me, he'll probably go right over my head, and I'll bring him back down and say, hey, man, you got to dumb it down for the dumb handyman here. But Karl, welcome to the show, man. Can't wait to get into this.
Hey, Chris, I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So, Karl, let's back it up a little bit, and then we'll start diving into what you do. But how'd you get into this business? Is this something you wanted to do from the moment you went to college? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I guess I went to college, did economics undergrad, and then it was more systems type stuff in my MBA. But of course, you had some numbers in there, accounting and finance type stuff. And um, I guess after about 7, 8 years in the corporate type of setting, my parents twisted my arm to come work for the family business. And so I came in, used my financial background as well as, whatever other experience, and was the CFO. So that's how I kind of got into it, and just been a little bit of wild ride, entrepreneurial opportunities and helping companies grow ever since.
So, what was the family biz?
It was industrial distribution of things like pipes and valves. Pretty
All right,
sexy stuff, yeah.
right, way sexy, but in there, because that's what we're leading into. Because the family and you are from originally where?
Originally from Ohio, Cincinnati.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's where you guys were doing the pipe and distribution up there in Ohio.
Well, no, we moved down to Houston. There was an oil crash. My dad became an entrepreneur, not necessarily by choice. And then after he grew it for about 5 or 6 years, that's when I came in and helped him grow it from there.
So you guys were supporting the oil industry, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
there we go. So that's what I'm talking about. So you want to talk about being entrepreneurial, man? There is a show out there on Paramount Plus called Landman. So I
Yeah.
finally got to go watch that and went, holy crap! I knew it was a hard business, but man, they make it look really hard. But obviously, there's money to be made in there, and it's what I found from that series was a whole new appreciation for what it takes. And they definitely had. I don't know if you watched it, Karl, but they definitely were bringing their own support of the oil industry and how important it is to the entire world to that
Yeah.
show. And I really appreciate it, especially as a business guy.
Yeah, I love that. There's some great clips that I'll watch kind of rerun occasionally on YouTube or something. So yeah, have fun with that.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right. So you got into the family biz, you helped them. Now let's talk about it. I know it was mom and dad's biz, but when you got in there, how big did you grow it? And come on, they're not going to listen. So you know.
So yeah, I mean they kind of ramped it up I guess a little over 5 million, something like that. And but we took it over the next 3 years. Well, I guess there were maybe up 4 million because we grew at 5x in 3 years.
5X in 3 years. All right, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Everybody says, I mean, that sounds so sexy, right? Oh my gosh, you just went from five to, you said five, or you said four, so four times five. I'm no economic major, but the engineering background still works. So just carry the one. So that's 20. You guys got to 20 million. And that sounds
Yeah.
so sexy. Everybody's like, yes, please. Can I have one? Can I have 20 of those? But let's talk a little bit about the trials and tribulations, the things you've learned, you've been able to apply and help other people with.
Yeah. It had a few bumps and hisses and spinning and whatever in the course of that. I came in and, it's like, it's been a while ago. And we had three PCs, and this before internet and networking and all that. So we had three PCs and we had floppy disks we backed it up on. And one PC was for, invoicing. One invoice was for paying bills, and another was to, kind of try and put it all together, do some financials. And one day we came in the office and somebody had thrown a rock through the glass front door, came in, took all three computers and all the floppy disks that were sitting next to them that were the backups.
Oh my God.
Right. So we had printouts of, a lot of the invoices, but, for customers, but we didn't know who had paid.
Holy crap. So
Right.
that is so you talk about redundancy in today's world, and I tell this all the time. You want to age yourself? Let's just talk technology because the technology has gone so fast, so quickly into that. I'm not even getting into AI with you on this stuff. You go back to then. I mean, were your printouts the old dot matrix pin drive still?
Oh yeah.
And so you didn't
Yep.
even know who paid. So how about
Right.
going back to somebody going, hey, did you pay us or not? I mean, I'm sure that went really easy.
Right. Yeah. You're going, hey, are we up to date? When's the next check coming? Let's see. Oh, my records aren't real clear. Did I apply this correctly? So
Oh
you get
boy.
to do a little dance, and then but the vendors were a lot easy because they'd call. You know,
Right. Yeah. You knew you stood with them.
that's right. So then it's like, okay, we don't know who owes us what. We don't know what we owe people. Let's try and put some financials together. It's like, okay, yeah, this is going to be fun.
That's not a
Um,
way to 5X your biz. So
right, that was a fun way to start. Yeah.
yeah, so you started that way. So that next inflection point, was it grabbing a big vendor? Was it you guys were chasing the car and the proverbial dog chasing the car and you caught a bumper and it was just a really big job that helped you jump to that next level? How was that growth phase there?
Right. So a lot of what we were doing was project based. So somebody's, whatever, building a refinery or doing upgrade or maybe, just turn around, replacing a lot of stuff all at once. And so we get this, big purchase order and they beat us up on margins. So the margins could be pretty thin on some of those big deals, but a lot of it was those big orders that come in and, you just, my dad had the connections. He was been in the business for a long time. And so he'd get to see those orders and then you'd go talk to the vendors and see if you could get a little discounts. It was such a big order. And so, it's a middleman business. We'd buy the material. Generally, it'd get shipped to us. Occasionally, it'd get shipped straight to the customer. So, um, it wasn't a huge margin business. This wasn't software or, something like that.
Oh, you mean something like a handyman business? Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So So that's the thing, you hit on where I was going to go with the 5X. So 5X, it sounds great. Oh God, it's great. But you just hit on exactly what happens. Sometimes in that growth, you lose sight of the bottom line.
Right.
And because to get some of those bigger jobs in the beginning, you're buying some business, and yeah, you're thinning down on margins. So sounds like you were at least wise enough, or Dad was wise enough to go. Now we got to bring this all the way down, man. I'm talking to my vendors, so I got to get some of my margin back.
Right.
Was that kind of the constant ebb and flow as you guys were growing? Was keeping the margins tight or keeping your profit better?
Yeah, we were very aware of what our margins were and thought about our overhead, but you also had to finance it, so there was, a lot more bank debt and you know, questions about inventory management, how much stock do we keep? That was a lot of interesting discussions there. So, yeah, it wasn't simple. It wasn't simple.
Yeah, you had a lot of moving parts. It's obviously got you ready to help people like you do today. So you helped the fam, you get up to the 20, you learned your lessons, and then it was time to go out there and hang your shingle out and start helping other people. How'd you get that idea to go out and start helping others? Did people start coming to you going, hey, Carl, I know mom and dad's kind of the whiz, but we think you're the whiz bang. Can we use you? Is that how it worked?
Well, you might have seen those charts that kind of, straight line go from the what is bottom left to the upper right, smooth line. And then you've got that squiggly squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. Yeah, that's my career was the squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. So, you know, after about 5 years, Dad had said, I don't want it any bigger, and so that meant not a lot of opportunity left, for me. So I went off and um, did some entrepreneurial stuff. This was back in the dot-com era, so I ended up starting a dot-com deal. It was,
Was it like Amazon? Was it Walmart? What'd you start? Did you start Yahoo? Uh,
yeah, well, it's kind of, I was trying to be sort of like Amazon for the industrial valves, the things, the same products. But hey, let's, help connect people. And, it sounded like a great idea. And, I got some initial investors. And then the second round of funding was scheduled to close a month after the dot-com crashed. So you can kind of guess how that went.
Yep. So that's one that I did not participate in terms of dumbass moves that Chris has made. The only I was at Accenture. I was going to go out and start up with a group. I was going to do a small startup. I said no, had a young kid at home. Probably the only time I said no to something and it actually worked. But no, I went and started my business in the middle of the downturn in 2008. So don't worry, I got plenty of dumbass mistakes as well. Everybody's heard this before, but so that's a pretty humbling experience, right? You've been on top of the world. You've been with, helped your family get to that spot. You get out, you start going, I can't be beat. And you're like, well, so what happened next?
So that crashed. I was doing a little consulting and I met a guy who he was a consultant to these big hospitals. His background was running staffing in their physical therapy areas. And so he'd kind of was doing consulting with them. And so he had all this data. And again, technology's changed a lot since then. So he had him like typing in data into a spreadsheet, and then he'd take the floppy disk and bring it back and then do some analysis on it. And he's like, "Hey, can you help me, with the spreadsheets?" And I'm working on the spreadsheets, helping to, because he'd take the floppy drive and then they'd keep working on it. And so the data didn't always match. And so I'm sitting there working on it. And one day I say, if we did this on the internet, we wouldn't have all this problems with the matching the spreadsheets. And he's like, we can do that.
Uh-oh, you just said voodoo. You do that voodoo that you do. So you said, how about using the internet? And again, people today go, well, of course. But
Right. Yeah.
but at the time this was going down, no, that's not something we thought about.
Right. This was like 2001, where,
So that's modem time. that right?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I got 20,000 bought. Yeah, let's go. Wow, I'm cranking. Today, you're like, if I'm not 5G, it's nothing.
Yeah. Right.
So how did you help him implement an internet way of handling this and analyzing the data?
Well, on the first startup, I'd learned some basic internet programming. I wasn't, super whiz, Wozniak or Apple or something like that, but I knew enough to be able to make screens so that the hospital people at the hospital could enter the data, put it into a database, and then make charts to show them how their department was going, how they're utilizing their staff, and it was just the type of analysis that he was doing on Excel, but then because it was on the internet and we could do all these, they could click and get a graph and click and get the graph and drill down and so we just started using his connections, getting another hospital, and so we had like major hospitals in 14 states at one point. Guess, yeah, in Houston, Methodist, Memorial Hermann. We had UCLA out on the West Coast, Stony Brook up in New York, and
So, man, you're dropping. I know. Well, I'm not in that world, but you know what you're doing. You're doing some serious name dropping right there, brother. I got you. I heard that. I mean, when you say UCLA and you say Houston, because Houston, the network down there is amazing. And then, yeah, so you were nailing some big fish.
yeah, yeah, but and we kind of partnered on the deal, and so we got these great accounts, but this kind of comes back to your earlier comment on pricing. So he came out of the staffing world and he's like, Karl, if we mark it up 20%, we're going to be fantastic. We'll make a ton. And I was like, yeah, but it's software. There's nothing to mark up, you know. And we never were able to kind of square the circle. He wanted to do it for like $1 a day. And it's software, so there's nothing to mark up. So we went back and forth, and he wanted to charge $1 a day, to these major hospitals. And I'm like, we'll never make any money. And he's like, oh, but it'll go viral. And I was like, I don't think it's ever going to go viral. And, the big hospitals it takes time to get into these hospitals. It can be a year or two, sales cycle. So my code ended up staying on the internet for over 15 years, but the business really didn't last, that long. At some point, I kind of sold it back to him and said, good luck. And
So what was the biggest lesson you learned out of that?
It's when you pick your partner. This guy, experienced business owner, he had grown and sold his staffing company for a lot of money, sharp guy, but he was really strong in the area that he understood, which was staffing. And when you brought him over to software, it was just like a whole different world, and he just didn't get it. But he, the way we set it up, he still wanted control of the area that he didn't really understand. So, a little bit more planning on bringing in partners, business partners, was really the thing that I learned from that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's great. All right. So today you're helping a bunch of people, and let's jump forward to now what you're doing. What are some of the areas that you come in and really been able to help people? People get a flavor for that. Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9-to-5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? Then you need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the new book by successful entrepreneur Chris Lalamiya. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. Lalamiya shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the home services space. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get your copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon.
Right. So there's probably, a handful of most common situations. One is a young company that, hey, we got this cool thing. We just need some money to grow it. So helping them think through, kind of make a plan of attack for how we're going to raise the money, how we're going to present to potential investors. And so and usually, a lot of times it's some kind of technology or, new business that requires some money.
Now, this is something we have not talked about much in our podcast over the 3.5 years, just because we've talked about funding. And one of the things that we all know about me is that I'm just not a very good partner. And I've used basically my line of credit for my home to start the business. And I have a business line of credit that I use during the slow periods just to kind of augment some funding. So let's talk about how you go use this funds to go the right way, and how do you help pitch this?
Right. I guess the one thing for me is that getting money is a sales process. It's, it sounds great to just say, I'm going to raise money, and it sounds like some special thing, but it's really you're trying to get somebody with money to give you some money in exchange for, part of the company or debt, some form, some piece of paper, basically. And so that's really a sales process. And so when you sell most things, there's some sort of sales collateral. You kind of have to have a strategy, explain the value. And on something like this, there's a lot of numbers involved. You know, you're betting on the future. Well, what's the future going to look like? If it's debt, can you pay the debt back? I mean, even like real estate, we're going to expand. We've got a business. It's been growing. It's great. It's not a new business. It's not a startup, but, we need to buy this real estate to expand to the next level. Great. You want a bank to loan you money or somebody to loan you money. How do you show them you're going to pay it back? And that's something that not everybody thinks through. They're like, well, this is a great deal. We're going to make a bunch of money, so the bank will lend us money, right? Well, not always. The bank needs to really understand your numbers and be able to understand how you're going to pay it back. That's really somehow that's important to the bank. They get picky about that.
As the former banker, I know what you're saying, man. You know what? I really love your business. I'm enamored with the business, but you need to pay me. And I'm in number one position there, big boy, and you better be paying me. So people have that idea. They have the whiz bang widget, the idea, the software, the product, or whatever it is. And you're saying that most of these people don't know, how am I going to be able to pay back the people who give me all this great money?
That's part of it, and to me, that's part of the sale. You have to understand, what they're looking for, because, well, I'll invest in your business. Well, some people want, a convertible note. Other people want equity. Other people, just say, I want to loan you money. Other people say, I want to take over your business. So you have to understand who you're talking to.
Back to having the right partners, my friend. That's right. So you got to understand.
Right.
So you help them navigate how to take this and navigate those waters of what's the right position, right funding method for you. Then I guess that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So take me through that. A lot of this stuff is a lot of foreign for us. So if you really want to start growing your business, you're saying funds to unlock it. You got to figure out what source of funds, and then you got to always be selling, which now we talk about stuff we talk about here all the time. Always be selling. So how do you figure that out? Take us through an example of one of them.
A lot of selling is telling a story. I mean, that's just talking to people. If you tell them a story, one, it's easier to remember. And a lot of times people need to be able to explain your business to somebody else. If it's a high net worth individual, yeah, it's their decision, but they're probably going to tell their wife or their accountant or somebody about this deal and why it's a good deal. So if you tell a story that they can remember, it's compelling, it's interesting, that that's going to improve your odds a lot. And so thinking through what does that story look like is a big part of what I'm doing. And part of it's the numbers. What's this thing going to look like in 5 years? And is that a reasonable, set of assumptions we're making? And then also just how does it, telling a story that they can relate to, if they've started a business or, you know, if they're, more of a corporate type or, whatever that person's background is, that you're going to be pitching to, hopefully that story's got something that can resonate. And a lot of times that, we're going to use slide decks to help tell the story, websites, tools like that I may not make the website or anything, but I want to make sure we've thought through the story and have a plan on how we're going to explain this to somebody.
Interesting. So when people come to find you, and everybody, you can find him at Abundant, and that's Karl Maier, and he is going to talk about that. As people come to you, what's that first ask? Is it you trying to educate them on what you can do and help them with it, or are you trying to seek their problems? How do they come ask you? How do people know how to find you?
A lot of it comes through referrals or LinkedIn. I had somebody reach out to me earlier today on LinkedIn going, "Hey, I've got," and it's somebody I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. I saw on LinkedIn, you actually have the timeline, and last message was 2016.
Ooh, all right.
Okay. And he's like, "Hey, I've got this situation. You have time for 20, 30-minute call?" I was like, "Yeah, well, how about Friday?" And so, that's not uncommon is to, just haven't talked to you in a long time, but I've got this situation. I know I need some kind of financial guidance. I had a guy that reached out to me. It's been about a year now, but we'd gone to undergrad together, and that's, I got some
Hey, I'm right with you,
friends.
man. I'm in everybody knows that. I'm in the hair club for men. And it's
Yeah.
so funny. I just got done doing an estimate, and the guy's talking to me. He goes, the old geezer's like 60 and 70. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm double nickels, man. So, lighten up on the old geezer thing. And I actually think you're older than me looking at you,
Yeah.
but it didn't matter. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he reaches out to you from undergrad, knowing your background and your expertise. And
Yeah.
clearly, you've made a lot of good connections and that burned a lot of bridges. So people know how to find you. So
Yeah.
he reached out. What's his ask? What did he ask for you?
So he's developed like these pumps, industrial pumps, and great engineering background, but he's trying to really understand the math. Well, part of it, he's just understanding how do I raise funds. And part of it really, he kind of had some ideas and he had some good ideas. But one of the things that, I kind of had to walk him through, and it starts with a lot of questions, understanding his business, understanding what he's trying to do, understanding where he's at right now. So I definitely asked a bunch of questions. But one of the things that became clear from the conversation in this situation was, the numbers, you know, I want X million to grow this business to Y million. And just a quick glance, you're like, okay, well, let's just say 5 million to get to 50 million. Okay, that sounds good. But once you really start to look at it and go, how much does somebody who's going to put 5 million into a risky startup type situation or early stage business, how much do they really expect to get? And, in order to, if you sell for this amount, you sell for 50 million in 5 years and they put in 5 million, you can do math and figure out what percentage of the company they really need to own. And he's an engineering guy, so when I kind of explained the numbers to him, walked him through the numbers, he's like, I get it. I get it. But the problem was, where he started was something like you need to sell them about 125% of the business in order to make this a good investment for them.
How big did his eyes get when you said that number? Because my eyes just about came out of my head.
Yeah, that was one of those eye-opening conversations. He's like, oh,
So
oh,
Carl, I'm going to go back to my college years. So 6 years in school, and I was so proud that you said you were an economics major and then a systems guy as an MBA, and I got my master's in mechanical engineering. And coming out of that, I exactly had two business classes, which you had two per semester at least. So you know exactly what this guy was doing. He was like, I had no clue. But Carl, my pump's so much better. My technology, my whiz bang solution's so much better than everybody else. And I mean, but it's amazing. Like I understand, but in business, this is what we're looking at. And so obviously that's the kind of advice you give to people, right?
right. Yeah,
Whoa,
right.
boy.
Yeah.
All
And
you have to do is sell them 125% of your business. Oh, wow. And so, that first kid thing, hey, that's always overused anyway. But you chop off your leg and you probably got a deal here. Oh, okay. So
exactly.
what did you end up advising him and what did he end up doing?
Right. So I mean, it's great to, say it makes for a good story to say, oh, 125%. But what you can do then is help him look at how do you be more efficient with that capital when you're getting started. What can we do to, maybe instead of making a full line of pumps, maybe we start off and we get to cash flow break even with, two models of pump instead of eight.
How hard was that? Again, I just worked with so many engineers. How hard was that one? Because I would have been, but Carl, all eight are great.
Right.
Eight is great. And you're like, I know they are, but
Right.
look, just how about two? Yeah, but
Mm.
but those other six are even better. Why don't you pick your best two? Yeah, but then the other six are even better. Right? Still pick your. I could just hear that conversation going. So was it like that?
I have absolutely been in that exact conversation. This particular one didn't go that way.
Okay, good.
But yeah. Oh yeah, I've got a guy who sharp guy, great sales background, actually has an engineering background and has been kind of in the sales side of, technical sales. And he had this, great idea and he'd put it together and, figured it all out and spent all this time, he'd quit his job and spent all this time developing the technology and he's ready to go. And he's like, okay, I just need some money for go to market. And it's only whatever $500,000 or something like that, so help me raise that and then we can, this will take off and it's going to be great. It's like fantastic, good. Well, how, well, good. How much time do you have before you just absolutely need that money and you'd have to like go find a job? And he's like 60 days.
For an engineering, again, pump, and the sales. So all right, go on,
Right.
tell us a story. Enlighten us
Right.
all on this one.
Right. And, I'm like that, well, that's great. If you were an existing business and you just needed to expand your line of credit from an existing bank, we could probably do that. But for just about anything else, no. We're looking at 6 months to a year, more than likely to, be able to raise equity for a startup. And I've definitely seen it take longer, to do.
Man,
So, you know, he really didn't, he was just like, nah, that can't be right, man. That just can't be right. Don't you know people, they'll just, like, dude, if you get an attorney just to write up the documents, it's going to take 30 to 60 days, just for the documents for this deal. And,
so
that's
just
not
like everything, we've watched too much on YouTube. We've watched too much HGTV in my world, and everybody thinks it can be over and instantaneous. Even
right.
for us, well, I'm not going to put you with me. Even for this old guy, it's not as quick as we'd all like it to be. We all think it's going to take exactly half the time, but it's really going to take double the time we're even thinking. And sometimes double is actually 4x. So that's another great lesson I think a lot of people don't realize is just how long it takes to get a startup going. When I first started my biz, I told everybody, I'm like, I'm going to break even in 16 months. Yeah. 36 months later, I finally broke even.
Yeah.
How am I doing? Yeah. But that's what happens when
Yeah.
you start in the recession, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I helped helped a entrepreneur lady in the healthcare space, and good idea for business, definitely a market for it. Had to build out some offices. She'd never done that before. It's okay. So we said, okay, here's how much it's probably going to cost. Here's how long it's going to take, and it took twice as long and cost twice as much as she thought. And then, we say, okay, well, how fast are you going to build up your client base? And well, that's probably it's going to be tough. It's going to take a year. Well, after, twice as long building it out, yeah, she still hasn't hit break even, but she's looking good. She's growing every month, and she sees the end in sight. So there's hope.
I actually had somebody call me out because I said this before. I said, if you can take your business plan and have the revenue and double the expenses and it still works out for you, now you got something you can work with.
Right.
Because that was my big failing in the beginning is that I did not have best. I had expected case and I had best case, but I did not have worst case. And I wasn't even close to how bad my worst case was because my expenses were almost literally double what I expected because I was doing a lot of advertising to get my business off the ground. And my revenue was almost half of what I had actually had in my projections. And that's the hence to forward. That's why 17 years later, I'm an overnight success. For a lot of people, learn from what I just did, man. Listen to what Carl's telling you. You can do it differently. You just got to listen to the right people. So, Carl, man, this has been great. I don't want to take you too much more of your time, but I do want to make sure everybody can find you. So you mentioned LinkedIn. I know you got a ton of followers out there, big boy. So how does everybody go find you?
The easiest place is abundant.com, abundn.com, or you can look up Karl Maier on LinkedIn, Karl Maier.
And that's a podcast faux pas for Chris, everybody. I've been calling him the wrong name. So, and he did not correct me. So thank God. So, because if you try to say my last name, it doesn't work. So Maier, Karl, Maier on LinkedIn or Abundant, ABUNDEN.com. So Carl, if they reach out to you, what can they expect to hear back from you? Can they talk to you for 30 minutes? I mean, what's it going to take?
Yeah, a 30-minute conversation is usually, plenty of time to get a general idea of what you're looking at, give you a sense of if I'm the right resource or if I need to redirect you to, and probably introduce you to somebody. If I'm not the right one, and probably introduce you to somebody that will be able to help you.
Man, if you got a great idea, you got a great product, maybe a great service, and you're looking to scale it, man, give this guy a shout, right? Tell him you got him off the, you heard him off the Small Business Safari. He's going to throw you a little nugget, man. Give you a little something, something. You know what I'm saying? He'll hook you up. But Carl, before we let you go, and I say we because I'm so used to saying that, Alan, come back. Oh, it's been so hard without Alan. I got to be the straight guy, the funny guy. And let's face it, he's just not that funny. You know what I'm saying? He's just not. But anyway, I miss him. And I mean, I can't ask for a better co host. Alan has been amazing. But I want to ask those famous 4 questions we ask because I just get the So Jones off these things and we get them all out there. So, Carl, I want to ask first give us a book you would recommend to all of our audience.
Book I'd recommend. Let's see. I would probably, there's so many. I hate to have to pick one, but I guess I would go to, I'm gonna go with Atomic Habits.
Woo,
I really like that
James
one.
Cleary.
Yeah.
Yep, James Cleary. What's your favorite one that you picked up that you implemented yourself? Because I've read the book as well.
You know, building just kind of getting that first habit in place is always the toughest thing.
He's
Yeah.
right. He's right, and we've talked about that. So eating less, drinking less, still can't do it. But I'm at the gym 6 days a week. I just can't outrun the damn fork, and drinking bourbon while I do these podcasts doesn't help me either. But yep, he's right. But your habits build your. I mean, I talk about that with my team. Even your habits form your systems. Your systems form your character, and your character forms who your identity becomes. And you've got to just do that from your habits. So great. That's a great one. All right, now I'm in the home remodeling business. We got a handyman business. Everybody knows that here in Atlanta and in Athens, growing and talking to people about growing even bigger. So, what is the favorite feature of your home?
Favorite feature of my home, we have a whole floor that's got the kitchen, dining room, living area, TV, all in one, no walls, and that's great for family cohesion and entertaining. So we love that.
That's awesome. Yep. We do a lot of that too. We've been blowing out so many walls out of these 50s and 60s ranches here in Atlanta on the 3-2 ranch, where there's that wall going right down the middle, and people say, hey, we want to be able to see everybody now. Where back in the day, we wanted to make sure nobody saw anybody. And the less, the better, especially. No, don't take that the wrong way, Dad. Not that Dad's listening. But yeah, so that's a great one. Well, another one, a question we've got, because Alan and I are customer service. Alan's not here. Freaks. As we're customer service freaks, what is a customer service pet peeve of yours when you're the customer?
When I'm the customer, when I go to a restaurant, I get great service. They bring me bread, bring me my entree, they take my order, they get it all right. It's fantastic. And then they forget about me when I want to pay the check.
Oh, isn't that the worst too? You're like done, you're ready to rock and roll, and I can be a little ADD. I'm like, all right, man, let's go. We use restaurants so often as analogies because when we do go out to eat with so many people that we talk with, and that's a great one because number one, it's a really hard damn business. That's the only one where I feel like they're got a harder business than I do, and I feel so bad. And I've actually, I wouldn't say a whisper's breath away. I'd say probably 3 whispers breath away of going in with one of my buddies on a restaurant concept. Because he's like, hey man, you know how to do this. I'm like, yeah. And my wife's like, I think you've done enough. I think that's enough. So, yeah, that's a great one. I love that one. All right, last one. Again, I'm in the remodeling business. I want a DIY nightmare story. I mean, I love fire. I love flooding. I love, in my case, nails going through your foot. Or maybe a nail going through your finger. Maybe I've one thing I was just talking about with somebody. I've never had a stitch in my life. That's not because I didn't need to. It's just because I just never did it. So I didn't tell them that part. And they're like, really? After all those years in construction and playing football and doing all this? I'm like, no, never had a stitch. Now you look at my body, you were like, oh, I get it. This is why you go on podcasts and radio. But give us a DIY nightmare story.
Wow. So at one time I had a older house, I think built in the 30s, so it'd been around a while. And we didn't understand why we were getting some leakage in the bathroom till finally we pulled up the toilet and realized that the lead pipe had completely dissolved.
Oh my God. I've seen that. I've lived it. I've seen it. I actually, back in the day, one of my guys came across one. He did not know how to change out a lead ring, and I'm the one who had to go do it. And we had to actually, there's no other way we could have done it. And this is now, again, you can't use lead anymore, but we could at least replace the flange. So what'd you do next?
It was a replacement, so yeah, we just had to figure out what size was it, because it's gone.
It's completely gone, friends. Oh, I love it.
So it was sizing and,
if you're eating your lunch in your truck and you're listening to this one, yeah, you're gonna want to pause for a minute and come back, because if you've ever pulled up a toilet with a rotted cast iron flange over time, when you pull that sucker up, that first whiff is brutal, isn't it?
It is. Oh yeah, it was brutal. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Karl knows finances. Karl knows what bad smells look like. Karl knows what bad deals look like, man, because he can smell them from a mile away. Go check him out, Karl Maier, on LinkedIn, or Abundant, ABUNDEN. If you didn't learn something about funding, you didn't learn something about, hey, I'm thinking about taking that next step and I need to get some better people in my camp, go get this cat on your camp. Make it happen. Make it keep going up that mountain, because we're going to check you guys out next week. Go make it a great week, everybody. Ciao.